Hello everyone, this is the monthly Distimo webinar. Thanks for joining. The first question as always, can you all hear us? And I would like to ask you, if you can, please type a quick yes or something in the chat box so that we know that sound is working properly and you're with us. I see a hi, that probably means yes. Perfect. So I'm Crystal and I'm here with Melania. We're both analysts at Distimo and we'd like to follow up today with our webinar in regards to our most recent publication. Melania is the author of it and we'll share some of the major findings of this, and we will also show you some additional information and as well a live demo of AppIQ as always in our webinars. And also, I wanted to note that this webinar will be recorded, so you can watch it after and share it with your friends. And also, we will make it available on our blog with a link to the record session, as well as the slides, of course. All right. A few words about Distimo before we start to head into the details of the report. Some of you might not know us that well yet. We mainly have 4 products, and with these products we really analyze the app stores. So we're an app analytics company, and we started off with our app analytics product, which allowed us, or mainly you as a developer, to really track all of your apps, which means if you, for example, have a Google app, an Apple app, and an Amazon app, you can see all of your download and revenue numbers in one interface. And in addition to that, there will also be things like reviews and ranks, basically all the interesting stuff about your own apps. And we also offer something like a conversion tracking that will allow you to track your user value from the users that use your own apps. And of course, there's also an API that allows you to export all that great information. But surrounding all that, we have our main product, Distimo AppIQ, which really is what this report and all of our reports are mainly based on. And this is really our competitive insight that allows you to see how much money does my competitor make, how many downloads are needed to get in the top of the charts, which category, which country. It always depends what the volumes are to get really to the top of the charts. And we analyze this kind of information, try to provide you with estimates about downloads and revenue figures, and this is also what is used in our publications that allow you a broad benchmark of the markets to really figure out where you have a chance. I just got a note here. Can you still hear me? Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, little technology glitch. Yeah, so this is mainly an overview of our product. And before I give the word to Melania, I would also like to mention another quick note that we also have a mobile app. And if you haven't done so yet, please feel free to download it. It's free and you can see all this information that I just mentioned basically on the go and share it with your friends, and you can see our leaderboard charts and see what is going on in the major app stores. And yeah, like I said, now I'll give the word to Melania, who will give you an overview about the category dynamics in the major app stores, and yeah, we'll talk later.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to see that you are all curious to find out a little about what's behind App Store categories in terms of trends and dynamics. I'm sure you all have scanned through the publication and you've seen that games is still leading in terms of downloads, and revenue is still a major player in all app stores, in Google Play, in Apple App Store, in Amazon App Store. We've seen in February some interesting trends such as finance category and sports. We're going to dive into that a little bit. And now We'll first start with a quick overview of the top categories in terms of downloads for Apple and device installs for Google Play. And I highlighted there examples of the top apps that pushed the category to have such an interesting trend in February compared to January. And most of these apps you can see top charts in the stores, and I would like to highlight. This is going a bit too fast with the mouse button. In Apple, we see in games Splasherfish. That was the top app, free app in Apple Store, and you can see that in our top global apps blog for February. And actually for Google Play, in terms of device installs, 4 of the 5 top global apps are highlighted here. So we see that a Clean Master is really pulling the tools category up in the charts, and WhatsApp Messenger is a nice player in communication, and Facebook as always in social, and we can see the same thing in Apple for social networking. And just a quick note on the donut charts over here. Of course, games is the biggest chunk of downloads for February again. I mostly focused in the report. I thought that would be interesting on the other categories, and that was the motivation behind this month, to see, okay, what's happening also in the categories, not necessarily just at the top, but overall trend. And this analysis led to interesting findings when we compared revenue per category in February compared to January. And while the month was shorter, it is in fact the shortest month of the year.
Yeah, 28 days.
Exactly. There was some slight revenue decline in February, but still we had categories that showed a great increase, and actually found it very interesting, very extraordinary that sports and finance had such a great spike. And I highlighted here for you what was the leading app in finance, and I think there is no surprise given the tax season in US. Intuit publishes many apps to help tax preparation, and we'll have a short demo on top countries for this app later on in AppIQ.
TurboTax, right?
TurboTax, yes.
Interesting.
And then sports is the #2 increase in February compared to January in 2014 for Google Play, aggregated over all countries. And one might wonder, okay, if sports is such an increase, how come is health and fitness going down? Well, we can just make a supposition and say, well, people were just watching perhaps the Winter Olympic Games and didn't go to the gym that often. We will go into more details about the sports category later on.
Yeah, but typical, I think we see always in the beginning of the year a big increase for health and fitness for the New Year's resolution. I think you touched that also in your report. So that might be a reason why in February then it couldn't keep up with the big growth from January.
That's true, that's
and
true.
People downloaded that before. That's very interesting to see.
They take care of it in January, and in February a little bit slower.
Nice.
Moving on to a similar picture, this time in Apple App Store, again aggregated over all countries, the revenue increase per category in February compared to January. Again, I highlighted the tax app in finance. This was TurboTax 2013, and we see a similar trend, sports and finance going upwards. Other categories, well, for the same reasoning, health and fitness perhaps went down. Now, Additional information compared to the report is to actually get an overview visually on what happened in terms of downloads, device installs for Google Play in this case. So as we expected, sports also had an increase in terms of revenue, and we see it here as the only category that had an increase in terms of device installs. And that was mainly due to the Winter Olympic Games. There are very many apps to track the results, to track the country's performance, to keep an eye on what's happening when you cannot watch it on TV.
Which is live. Yeah.
Yes, very nice. So we're going to cover that a little bit in AppIQ with a better overview on the countries and the same picture for Apple App Store. Again, sports, huge increase, and that was very nice to see. Again, the apps on keeping the overview of results from the Winter Olympic Games drove the increase of this category.
It's interesting to see that the same picture on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Sometimes they really differ, but in terms of these February trends, they seem to move in the same direction.
Very good notice. It is indeed very similar, both in terms of revenue and in this case in download volume and install volume for Google Play. That was also very interesting for me to see that the picture was indeed very similar between the two app stores. Moving on, given the great sports category dynamics we saw in February, we thought, how about we split it per country and see which country contributes most to the downloads of free apps in the sports category. And in the red you see the Apple App Store and the Google Play, and the United States is the one with the highest proportion. So in terms of trying to keep up with the sports, Americans are always very good at downloading free apps for sports category. And then Russia comes in second, mostly because of
close relation to Sochi.
Exactly. Very cool. Yes. Going back a little bit to the revenue trends.
It might be a little bit small to see, but this is a graph that is accessible in the report that you can download on our website. But what did you want to highlight here?
Mainly that the freemium business model is again taking the greatest share of revenue per category for iPhone. But the most interesting fact was, for example, navigation, where paid apps with in-apps, so you could enable additional features in your navigation apps, actually was more important to users than simple free apps with in-app purchases. So it could seem that developing an app in navigation is more interesting from a paid app with in-app purchases point of view.
Yeah, I think this is something we see very often. I think navigation houses some of the most expensive apps, period. And then most of them are really paid.
Yes. And well, we see the same trend we've seen many times before, that for games, you don't have to pay the download fee, but very often in-app purchases to purchase additional items or unlock levels.
Yeah, so
that's how the category works.
Yeah, so when you see this graph, really newsstand and games are the leading categories in terms of basically revenue from the free apps. So the revenue share that is made from the freemium business model that you can see in purple is really the highest. And that's just since games, as we saw, was one of the largest categories in terms of revenue,
yes,
covering the whole store. You can really say this, that free apps make the most money based on in-app purchases.
Exactly, and that's a very interesting conclusion to make. So if you're a game developer, that seems to be the right approach.
Yeah.
Now we also wanted to see which category was most interesting for publishers. Where do developers like you perhaps like to send their new apps? And this is a quick overview on both free and grossing for both Google Play and Apple Store. So in the left you see Google Play, in the right Apple App Store. On the top the free categories for free apps. And we see in both stores that business is leading. So in February 2014, the largest proportion of new apps was in business category. Surprisingly, not necessarily in games. We see games as number 4 in Apple. But an interesting finding that we also pointed out in the publication is that new apps in categories in games have a very high chance of making it to top overall because, well, everybody likes to play a game every now and then.
And they like to try out the new ones maybe and see what's new.
What's new, yeah, what are new features, what is new out there. But also if you quick glance overall for graphs, you see education among the top for Apple and Google Play. And we're going to look in AppIQ at education and see exactly that it is indeed a large, well, a significant portion of new apps go there.
Very good. We'll switch to AppIQ.
So one of the first things I mentioned when we started with an overview of the categories in terms of downloads was communication, for example, for Google Play. There was the icon of WhatsApp over there. So,
yeah, so what we see here is our leaderboard that you can access through AppIQ. We're in the month of February, just how you analyzed it in your publication, and you can see the different filters that we applied here. So we're looking at Google Play, globally aggregated, and down there in the communication category. And WhatsApp was the leading app during February, and you can see this in these charts.
So here indeed we see the top apps. And interesting to see the Telegram. We had a quick blog some time ago about how Telegram is going up in the charts. And another nice feature of our tool is that you can simply click and look at the top 10 countries for the given app. And it's interesting how this app is actually very popular in Spain and India, Mexico. Moving on to
our revenue tab now.
Yes. So we moved to Google Play to the finance category, for which we highlighted the TurboTax SnapTax, which was the leading app in this category that also pulled the category, have such an interesting revenue spike in February compared to January. And we see here for both 2013 and 2014, the app had a revenue spike in January, February, and other than that, the rest of the year the app is not used, which explains a little bit why we saw it so strong in February in our analysis. And
yeah, it's typical for the season, so you can really see the spike in revenue where for the months when the app is used. This is a weekly overview in this case, so you can really see in the first couple of weeks of the year is when people start downloading and doing their tax
prepare for taxes, exactly.
And then they probably also purchase in-app purchases that are responsible then for the great increase in revenue.
Yeah.
That you saw.
And if you move to the next tab, we can also see that In fact,
yeah, which countries are behind that?
Only one country, and that is US. So well done in preparing your taxes in February.
I think TurboTax is typically the go-to service in the United States. So yeah, we see it here in pink, whereas the rest of the world is just gray. So there doesn't seem to be much US citizens spread around the other app stores. What else can we see in AppIQ?
Well, this is a nice comparison between our Sochi app, Sochi Results app.
That's what you see in pink here?
In pink, exactly. So that is for Apple App Store. And we decided to compare that with a competitor app given by NBC that also keeps an eye on the results of the Winter Olympic Games. And to see what is the percentage of downloads between the two apps, and that is really nice for developers to compare their apps with their competitor apps, and that's a great feature in the tool.
And NBC is one of the really known broadcasters, and Sochi, of course, was the official app, but maybe let's look at the same country distribution for this.
That is a nice thing to see indeed, because the NBC, you can see there highlighted in blue, is again just US. The broadcaster is of course there, and the Sochi app is
ruling in the rest of the world.
Exactly. So that is a major reason why the Sochi app was the top free app in the sports category in February.
Yeah, very cool. So I think these examples really give you an idea of what you can see in AppIQ and how you can use it. So of course we just choose examples here that are related to the report, but mainly these features, checking out the downloads, checking out the revenue of your competitor. You can obviously analyze that in detail for every category, for every country, and then even access this feature for really visually mapping out where you beat your competitors. In this case, NBC did that with the official Sochi app. Other than that, I think you mentioned the great increase of new apps in the education category, right?
Yes.
We need to look at that.
Let's see that. So in Apple App Store, we took the example aggregated education again,
and we see all countries.
Yes, in February, and we see, if you scroll down a little bit, that there are new apps in the top.
Oh yeah, we see all the new highlights here. So they're just around in the top 10. There are already 3. Yes. So that's probably part of the reason why you found this category increase so much with new apps. Maybe a little more info. So we are in the free charts here. You see this app probably had a price change to 0, so that's why it shows up in this. And then it was, of course, downloaded a lot after it was initially paid. And then when an app becomes free, we typically see this, that it moves to the top of the free charts right away. And the green symbol here indicates whether or not the app has in-app purchases. And that means then that these apps, of course, also can make revenue. But yeah, just looking briefly at this, the education category features, of course, really education-focused apps like Duolingo. It's a language app to learn it, or iTunes University. But also a lot of games are in there that focus on education. So kind of learning by playing.
Yes, and that goes back to what we observed in a greater picture for games, was that even if there are few new apps, then a large percentage, about 50% of the new apps in Google Play actually made it all the way to top overall.
Wow.
So a lot of people try the new games, and the downloads, the number of downloads increased.
Very interesting to see. Yeah, and this is a global overview, so of course you can check this out by country. And I always find it really interesting to see some of the Asian countries. Maybe we can check out South Korea in this education category. So here you see also iTunes University, very interesting that is such a success in the month of February. But maybe you can also go to the grossing charts, which are related to revenue, and here you typically really see that all the Korean characters are really present, and that really speaks for the high localization success in the Asian countries. So we always see that specifically also for game developers who want to enter these markets. It seems to be really important or a big success factor whether or not the app is localized, and that's not necessarily just in terms of translation, also in terms of culture or the content of the app, how well it is accepted and popular there. But here we also see the same picture, so Melania's findings were based on global values, but here you also see it in Korea, so we're in the grossing category, and there were again just a few couple new apps that just showed up in the month of February and already got to the top of the grossing charts in terms of revenue. So it seems like that in February really was, well, also part of education, the month, but in detail you can see it on the report which other categories showed a high percentage. And yeah, these are things that you can analyze in more detail in AppIQ. You can see the top performing countries, basically what we just gave you a quick walkthrough through. I hope you all enjoyed these findings, and if you haven't done so, you can definitely still download the report on our website and read it in more detail. Also, always feel free to follow up with questions and feedback. We'd love to receive it. And you can always suggest new topics for future coming publications, and we will definitely be here next month following up on our next report. And we'll still be available for a few minutes, so if you have any additional questions, we're happy to answer these. And if not, we'll follow up by email.
So I think, yes, feel free to send an email, pose a question, make an interesting point, and maybe we will pick it up in a future blog or a future publication, and we will dive into other parts of the app market for which Distimo has a good tool to keep an overview and at the same time be able to highlight interesting trends.
Yeah, very good. So for now, I didn't receive any other questions. As I said, we'll still be here for a couple minutes, but if you don't have any further questions, I hope you all have a good day in your different time zones. For us, it's end of the day now, and definitely thank you for listening and joining our webinar, and looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.